Well, welcome to the show. I am Jim Ferguson. I've got a fantastic guest with me, all the way from the Netherlands. His name is Jasper Smit. Welcome to the show, Jasper. It's fantastic to see you again. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Jim. Thank you for having me.
Well, I have to say, Jasper, it's great to have you back on. It's been a little while since we've talked. Of course, I stayed with you when I was over there. You took me all over the Netherlands, showed me some fantastic things. We did filming together. We were out doing interviews with the Dutch farmers, all that great stuff.
And that
And
was
I
so
have to
much
say,
fun.
it was great fun. I have to say you were a fantastic host, and I really appreciated your hospitality. Let's put it that way. Now, just for the sake of our audience, maybe you could just say just a little bit about your background, what you do, who you are.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jasper Smit. I'm an independent journalist from the Netherlands with an interest in politics and court cases, the rule of law. And within that, I'm following several kinds of stuff. So farmers, in geopolitics, business, and all that kind of stuff. And I think today we need to talk about geopolitical stuff. Mark Rutte, our former prime minister and now head of the NATO, Secretary General of the NATO. And I wanted to start with a big warning. So in English, you've got a saying, and it starts with "Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me." So this is your wake-up call, and I think you need to listen about the mentality of Mark Rutte and how he's handling politics.
No, I mean, Mark Rutte is a controversial character. Just before we went to recording, I mean, you told me a couple of things about him and his party, which, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest, kind of shocked me. Do you want to talk about that again?
I love to talk about it. But we need to go back way in time. When Mark Rutte was young, he studied in Leiden, in the city of Leiden. There's loads of universities in there, and he was thinking about: am I going to study piano music or I'm gonna study history? And history he wanted. So he knows all kinds of stuff about political careers, about handling political careers, and that's then he joined the GOVD. That's the youth party of the VVD, the party which he became party leader of and prime minister of the Netherlands. But his talking points at that time started with, for example, really controversial stuff. So be shocked, be my guest. He started for advocating sex with minors starting at 14. Afterwards, so that's I think it's shocking because that's I guess still what he believes in. He's never been married, never had a relationship, at least not openly, so we don't know what his favorite his sexual preference are for. But afterwards, the same GOVD, when Mark Rutte left, he went to Unilever. But afterwards, the GOVD started for advocating for bestiality. So that's a kind of mindset that need to keep in mind if we're talking about the Secretary General nowadays of the NATO, Mark Rutte.
I mean, it's unbelievable. I am absolutely shocked at hearing that. I just can't believe it. I mean, I know that he's deeply unpopular in the Netherlands. I mean, he did a lot of damage to the farmers, to the Dutch farmers, the expropriation of the farms. He's a WEF puppet. He's a thoroughly unpleasant guy, and now he's Secretary General of NATO.
Correct.
And that's really bad news because it doesn't look. I mean, his rhetoric, Jasper, has been one for war, continued war. Where do you think he's wanting to take this?
Basically, he doesn't care. He's running on power. So the story that he needs to tell, that's the story he's telling. And within 7 days, he can change 180 degrees. So whatever his masters wants, because the Secretary General is just, of course, it's a really important function, but that's not the only thing. I think the NATO is more a United Nation thing, a US thing, an American thing, and of course all the member countries. But when they're advocating for war, he's talking about war. When they want to advocate for peace, he's advocating for peace. And his nickname is Teflon Mark. So all the scandals that he's been running on is dripping like a little of like a duck. When the duck is becoming wet, it's the scandals is running off him like that easy, and that's where he's trained for. So he's the perfect person on the right position at the moment. Depends on what kind of side you're looking at, but that's Mark Rutte, yeah.
I mean, we've seen huge. I mean, every day it's like since Trump got back in as the president of the United States and started signing these executive orders, it's been like massive news practically every single day. But of course, there's been some major developments now, major falling out with the visit from J.D. Vance to the Munich Security Conference, where he basically put them on notice and say, you cannot be censoring people. This is not about, you dictating to people what they can say and what they can think. This is not how America works. And of course, you've got the Bill of Rights, you've got the Constitution. I mean, it's enshrined in America that people can have the right to say what they want to. And indeed, and even in Britain with the Magna Carta. But what did you make of that as it was all unfolding?
I think that was so much fun. It was a cookie. In Holland, we've got a Dutch saying, a cookie of your own dough. And that's what happened in front of them. Like he was invited by the German to speak about the stuff that needs to be talking about, but it's 180 degrees different than what the Europeans are, the EU is talking about right now. So it was a slap in the face, and I had so much fun watching it because JD Vance was right, is right. But that's still that's when let me go back, because Mark Rutte on his end of his 14 years term as prime minister of the Netherlands, there were three options. Like in 2023, he was sitting at a state media radio station, and the guy who was interviewing Mark Rutte asked him, "Okay, listen up, your end of your political career is here. What are you going to do?" And he was saying, basically, "I want to go out of politics. Let me be a teacher. Let me do stuff that's important." But there were three options. Like there's this pool with high-end places where you can go in, and there's this pool, and he was there were three options in there. It was the chairman of president of the European. I've got it written down because it's so much information. It's he was the president of the European Commission. There was a seat for president of the European Council, and there was this place for Secretary General of the NATO. But Mark Rutte was saying, "No, I'm not going to do this. No, I'm not going to do this because we want to have a woman in that seat. We need to have a woman in the seat. It's much better." And that was on October 23. And at that moment, that was my wake-up call. Like, he's going to take that position no matter what, because he's not going to be a teacher. So at that point, I put it on my YouTube page for everybody to see, but this was more for the Dutch. And 10 months ago, we had our first interview, and I was saying, I'm calling for Mark Rutte is going to be Secretary General of the NATO because he's the perfect man. And so if you're watching this, go back and see it. It's my prediction, and it's right. So and basically, I'm not saying that you need to trust me because I'm just a journalist. I'm just here, but what I'm saying is factually true. And if you don't trust me, look it up for yourself. I'm never saying trust me, but maybe you can better listen to me. And if things are weird or wrong, look it up. It's
You've got a great channel. We're going to put links up into all of that as well. But I mean, having met you personally, I've spent so many times with you when I've been over in the Netherlands. You call it, you really do call it. And you have a deep understanding at the geopolitical level of what's going on, not just in the Netherlands, but actually around the world. Going back to Ukraine just for a moment, the European elites are just in a froth at the moment that they've been sidelined by Donald Trump. They've not been at the table. Zelensky hasn't either.
That's what they're saying, of course, but that's not true. It's totally not true, because when the guy from Hungary was
Viktor Orban.
Viktor Orban. He was within the European Union. Every half year, there's a different member state head of chairman of some sort of commission, and Viktor Orban was at that time the head, and he was saying, "Okay, when I have this time, I'm going to make peace." And everybody within the European was like, no, no, you can't do that. And if you want to do that, don't do that under our name. Do that as a prime minister of your own country. So whatever, I'm going to do it. He flew at that time for peace arrangement to Ukraine to sit down with Zelensky. That was his first appointment. Then he was flowing down to Russia. He was flowing down to China. And to America. So when the Europeans are now saying we don't have a seat at the table, yeah, that's your mistake. You had a chance and you didn't take it. And now America is doing it, and now you're screaming your ass off. It isn't fair.
Yeah, no, it's not fair. But I mean, Trump wants peace. He was just talking again this morning about the fact that there's been too many killings. That I mean, the Ukrainian people have died, Russian people have died. The war has been a horrendous disaster for everybody.
How weird is it that during COVID the saying was "leave no man behind," but apparently within war it's okay to kill people. People are dying within a war, and I'm wearing this badge, and this badge I've been given by a member and from our side, and it's a reminder. It's the logo of the fourth and fifth June Commission, and that's our reminder of the Second World War. What happened there? So we know war brings a tremendous trauma to families, and it's going on for generations. How can we want to have war or peace by war? People are dying and it's still going on, and traumas for families, and it doesn't matter how you're thinking about it. If you're advocating for war, that's not what I believe in. I'm advocating for peace. So I read that's the only option, and go sit on a table and make an arrangement and make sure people have the liberty and freedom that they want, that they need.
Because Ukraine is an incredibly resource-rich country, massive farmland, a huge opportunity for them. And that has been set back. Coal in the east, of course, in the east of Ukraine, Luhansk, Donetsk regions, a potentially fabulously wealthy country. There's a lot of people that think that BlackRock and Vanguard and some of these elitist groups, though, were engineering the war so that they would then go in and basically take control of it.
These companies like BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street are opportunists. So these are the ones when Russia invaded Ukraine. Let me go in that point because it went way up. These type of investment groups were there at the first moment, giving them loans to support the war with a 2-year guarantee, and within that 2 years they had to pay it back, and that was last year ago. So they were in first of line to get money back, and the war was still going on. Zelensky was advocating, I need to have more money, because he needs to pay that back first, of course. And when you can't pay back your loan, what's going to happen? They're going to seize whatever they're going to seize. And that could be land, that could be banks, that could be whatever. So, and of course, the geopolitical thing within the Donetsk region, of course, there are a lot of rare earth elements in there, and the European Union needs that for the fourth industrial revolution. America wants that because they want to have the same thing, but for building computers, electronics. That's what in the ground. But Russia is aiming for that. Russia had only two demands, and one of the demand was Ukraine can't join the NATO, and we need to have a buffer zone. And if you don't give it, we're taking it. And that Donetsk is in that buffer zone. And if you look at Putin, which I'm not a fan of, but he's a sovereign guy of a communist party, the Federation of Russia. He was saying that all the time. So it's not a new thing like Russia want to keep it, Russia invaded. No, he said that was his two demands. And that's why everybody's hassling Donald Trump right now, because your support. No, it's not. That's not true. These were all the time on the table. Putin was saying it all the time, every week. I've got two demands, but our politics are censoring Russia channels, so nobody could hear this. But yeah, if you look it up, if you look up translation, that's what he was aiming for. So how bad the man is, because he's still a dictator, but Russia is a very big country, so you better listen to him.
Yeah, well, you see, that's the thing. I mean, that's the whole crux of it. And that goes back to the likes of Mark Rutte, who doesn't listen to even his own people. He wasn't listening to people in Holland or in the Netherlands, was he?
No, hell no. Sorry for sometimes I'm still Dutch. The funny thing is, it's not funny, but during his time as Prime Minister of the Netherlands, I was here to a local town hall meeting with the with the American guy of the embassy. And he was saying, we've got, listen up, Holland, you need to raise the bar, your GDP, go up to 2%. And we never, during the period, and Rutte demolished our army. He was shredding down budgets. And we never had, within his term, and he was okay with it, 1.4% of our GDP spent on geopolitics. And now within the Secretary, within his term, it's a 10-year term, the Secretary General of the NATO, he is saying 2%. No, countries need to go up to 5%. If you want to protect your own country, go up to 5%. And of course, that's the talking point of Donald Trump. And I understand he's a businessman, and that's how businessmen do, raise the bar up high and let's settle somewhere in the middle. But now he's advocating for 4%. But in his term, 1.4 something, never made it.
And I mean, he's not a man of peace either, is he? He has declared war on his own people in the Netherlands. He attacked the Dutch farmers, as we spoke about at the beginning. He expropriated, forcibly seized about 5,000 farms. It might have been more than that now. But, threw people off their farms and told them, and also gave them so-called compensation, which was far below what those farms were actually worth. But the fact is, the Netherlands, and you know this because you've been there with me when I've been over with you. We've travelled out extensively across the Netherlands. We've spoken to these people, the food producers. We've been in these enormous greenhouses that are producing incredible high quality flowers. I mean, the Netherlands is known for it. And I think that this is something that the Netherlands are extremely good at. We've went to farms, dairy farms. We went to places that are producing top quality food with the most advanced resources scientifically that's available. I mean, the Dutch farmers are actually the leaders of this in the world, and they're a small nation, but they really do get it right. And they're producing huge quantities of food. Mark Rutte has been attacking that, and there is an attack on farmers all around the world. But going back to what we're seeing with these globalist orders, they are trying to censor, they're trying to silence. J.D. Vance called out at the security conference in Munich. Interestingly enough, Jasper, it looks like there's going to be a meeting taking place between Starmer's government here in the UK, J.D. Vance again, who's doubled down, and he said, I will be challenging the UK government on their position on free speech. I mean, there's people that are getting arrested in the UK for praying silently, for just saying silent prayers in their minds, and they're being stopped by the police, questioned. when they say they've been praying silently in their minds. Now, whether you're a Christian or not, I mean, what happened to the freedom of thought? It's going even further. It's now freedom of thought that they don't even want. Where do you think this is going to end up?
I'm quite positive eventually, because every year with every election, we're gaining more seats. And that's what we're seeing. So I understand the UK is going up for elections. I understand Germany is going up for elections. We had America's turning 180 degrees. So every year we got more seats on the table, and it's logic. It's common sense. So when you were in the Netherlands, and that's the whole thing, we travel throughout the whole country, and you see about the same thing about the speech. It's Orwellian, and if we're front runners on everything, like you were saying about on our greenhouses, but it's on everything. It's as well on the fourth industrial revolution. You saw exactly what I saw. I pointed out, and if you look at our landscape, we were a flat country, so you can look for miles and miles and miles. But the wind turbines, it was like seeing the Matrix. And that's rows and rows and piles of windmills are putting up, and it's disgusting. It's horrible. So, but that's what the elite of the fifth column is talking about, and that's what they want.
Yeah, I mean, they want it at all costs. It doesn't seem to matter what other people think. They are very dystopian, dictatorial, I would almost argue tyrannical in their behavior. And what's happened to British journalists, as you know, Jasper, because we've talked about this often enough, where people have been locked up just for putting out posts on X or Facebook, whatever other social media, it's quite off the charts. But there seems to be a dynamic shift and something very strange happening right now, because it's almost as if the behavior of these elitists in Europe in particular, but also Starmer's cabinet too, it's almost as if they are, by their intransigence, by their obstacles that they're putting into the path of peace between Russia and America over Ukraine, they're almost throwing the Trump administration and the Putin administration together. And I wrote a piece there, which I have to say went viral, and it was to say, what if, it was just a sort of a what if scenario, what if America and Russia actually bury the hatchet and actually start to work together politically, economically? I mean, you think about the powerhouse of America, but you think about the powerhouse of Russia as well. They've survived all these sanctions. They're doing a lot of homegrown industries now. They have a massive landmass, probably the biggest in the world in terms of countries. Do you think that could actually happen, where Russia and America actually come together and start working in a cooperative way?
Why not? I think it's more than logic. You don't have to, within a business type of mind, you don't have to be in a marriage, but you can work something out and work together. Holland is a trading country. We've done that throughout centuries, starting at 1600. That's how we conquered the world. And and still nowadays we're trading with communistic countries, different kinds of regimes. But still, when you can do your business and provide example food for your citizens, why not? Why not?
I'm conscious of the fact that people spend so much on defense. Do we really need to be? I mean, are things so much different? I mean, for example, Tucker Carlson, who's the very well known, used to be on Fox News as an anchor there, and he's kind of doing his independent thing, especially Tucker on X. Tucker's great. I mean, he took a lot of flack because he went to Russia. He interviewed Vladimir Putin. He was going around, though, and he was actually doing shopping. He had the shopping baskets in the supermarkets in Russia. He was saying, hey, look, if they tell you, if the Western globalist run media are telling you that there's shortages in Russia, it's not true. Look at all this. And he was actually doing test purchases, and he had a big basket load of groceries that we would all buy in one shape or form or another. And it was a fraction of the price that what we're paying here in the West. And of course, the globalists didn't like that. They attacked him for it. I remember Boris Johnson, our former prime minister, attacked Tucker on that. And said, "But what are you doing in Russia?" Well, why not? I mean, I don't think, and it's not about naivety, and I understand that we have to understand Vladimir Putin's background. He's ex-KGB. We know all of that, right? But I look at our own national leaders and the duplicity and the outright lies. And I have to say that Jeremy Clarkson, who's a very well-known former presenter of Top Gear, of course, he's done Clarkson's Farm as well, big fan of that. He's come out and said, I would rather Putin than Starmer. I mean, are you surprised to hear that?
No, really not. And go back to Russia. We know Putin is an old KGB man, but at least he's honest and open about it. In Holland, we've got the same thing. We're supposed to be this wonderful nation, but our prime minister right now, his job before it was the head of the Secret Service, the head of the NTCV, the National Coordinator for Terrorism. He is that man. He was the Secretary General of the NTCV, and now he's our Prime Minister. But we can't tell about it. But our job as a journalist is to point the things that's going on, and it doesn't matter if you like it or not. And sometimes it's harsh. The topics that we're telling, because it's not nice to hear that Mark Rutte was advocating for sex with minors starting from 14, but it's the truth. And then people who are watching this, who watch Tucker Carlson or reading news articles, can make up their own mind and settle for something, have an opinion and thoughts about it, and have a truly honest conversation and make the right decisions. And sometimes I've been bullied by police. I've common sense is noted in the terrorist papers of the Dutch government. I don't care. I'm talking the truth, and they know it. They don't like it. That's something else.
I mean, it reminds me, I mean, I've spent a lot of time in the Netherlands over the last 12, 14, 15 months. Been there multiple times. Every time I go there, I'm hanging out with you and another bunch of fantastic Dutch people. I love you guys. And to be honest with you, it's been a real eye-opener.
We were climbing the Mount Everest, right?
yeah, we were. We were a little private joke there between me and Jasper. But listen, we were going, and you showed me these 15-minute smart cities, right? You were showing me what was going on with the migrant hotels. It's there. We did filming there. But you also showed me the levels of surveillance that was going on. I mean, you can't go anywhere in the Netherlands and not be surveilled, even on the highways, even the motorways. But the other thing is, and I often tell people this when I see them and when I'm talking to them about it, you took me to Hoofddorp. And what was incredible about that was that there was no banks in Hoofddorp. We did some filming, we did some reporting there. You also showed me those little cash buddies. I can't remember what they're called.
ATMs. There are ATMs where you can withdraw your cash from your bank, but money buddies.
Money buddies, that's right. But there was only like two of them in one little street, and then you could go around literally 100 yards away, and there was another two, and they were all out of service. And I think they'd been out of service for several months. And everywhere you go in Hoofddorp, there's little signs up on the shops and the cafe doors that we don't accept cash. So it's WEF Central in the Netherlands. I mean, World Economic Forum Central, their policies are there. And I think this war on cash, the central bank digital currencies, the digital ID isn't far away from being implemented in much, much deeper ways. Would you agree with that?
I'm totally agreeing with that. But it's not only the WEF. That's what if you are a sovereign country, we don't need the NATO because they're not democratically elected. We can't vote them away, but we've signed them within above our laws, and that's the NATO, it's the UN, it's the World Economic Forum, it's the World Trading Alliance. I'm not all there's 16 of these type of entities within the world who's taking over the power. We don't need those. The citizens and the government of the sovereign countries can do that on their own. But if we've got the leftists, the globalists in it, they don't have the balls, and they rather push it off to some sort of identity who's making that decision, and then they can point it like, no, we have to do that. They are calling for us, and they are saying we don't need those.
We don't need it. You know, do you think? I mean, if Trump gets seriously pissed off enough with the likes of the antics of Starmer and some of these other globalist elitists, that he might actually consider pulling out of NATO? Can you ever see that happening?
I hope so. Actually, I hope that with if things are not working out, if you're in a relationship, and that's the same thing. You're in a relationship, somehow you had to sign a contract with the NATO, with the UN. If it's not working out, if you're married to that organization and your marriage is not going to work out, and you're struggling for a long time, what's the end solution? It's a divorce.
Yeah. But do you think that might then lead to greater ambitions within the likes of the EU itself to create an army to replace NATO? Because they are talking.
I'm not a fan of the of the UN, of the European Union, because of the EU, because that's the same thing. We need to. Holland is within the European Union, and there are now 16, 17, I'm not sure, 26 countries within, and it's not working out. We can do whatever, but they have this mentality to be growing and a power grab and putting more power labels, and whatever we're doing, the whole setup of the European Union would be the same. There's no way to turn things or do something else. It's not gonna work out. So the best thing, and it's a harsh decision, but get the hell out of there.
I mean, one thing that seems to be happening is that there is what they talk about, the term European defence integration, and there's a lot of talk about that. It's too much to go into in the time that we've got left, but there seems to be a desire on the Europeans' part, or the EU's part, I should say, not the European people. It's the EU Commission in particular, that they are imperialistic in nature. They want to build a power base, and they want to dictate what they're doing. Let me ask you, because I'm really interested to know, what is the general feeling of the Dutch people in relation to being part of the EU? Can you see any kind of breakaway groups springing up? Do you think there's any potential for other nations within Europe to say, we've had enough of this, we want to do our own thing?
We're advocating for an exit because that's a solution. And it's just one letter, Article 51, I believe, just one letter sent over and it's done. But the mainstream media, the legacy media, and the governments, the whole shebang is holding on to that thought that we need to have it. But make it simpler. Let's make it simple. Let's peel something off. First we had the EEG. That started by Holland, Belgium, and Luxembourg for trading. That's what we always did, and then that ended up in the European Union. But if you slap it down, it's so big, and the grab office is so big that they wanna, every country within the European has its own army, and because everything went well, and America was taking over. In Germany they had over 200,000 soldiers for peacekeeping after the Second World War. Trump sent 100,000 back, and Germany said, "You need to protect us." And Trump was saying, "Then pay for it because
Yeah,
you're a
that's right.
kind of rich country." And that's not now. I saw a general of our army sitting at the legacy media, and he was saying, okay, the mainstream media is talking about a peace. We're gonna send army in for maintaining peace because that's what we're going. But it's not to keep peace. We're going in with force. We're gonna take on all the heavy material, tank, bombs, grenades, helicopters, drones, the whole shebang, because Russia is a powerhouse. And we saw it, if we're going back in history with Bosnia, we did the same peace kind of thing with the blue helmet. And look what happened there. Murders, the whole deal. We couldn't do anything. And it was a kind of war. So that's if you're bringing your powerhouse to the Russian border, what's the reaction of Russia going to be?
Well, exactly. And that's exactly what happened back in 2014 when they started pushing in or firing artillery at it was Ukrainians. They were the Western Ukrainians were firing at the Eastern Ukrainians because they were traditionally, I mean, they were a Russian speaking people.
Power grab. It is a power grab.
It was a power grab. Exactly right. And that's where it all came in. And I mean, I think a lot of the mainstream media forget that war, because it was a war, went on. It was almost like a civil war in Ukraine for 8 years. What was Vladimir Putin expected to do? These people were starting to identify as Russians. They were going, the Western Ukrainians hate us. And the Odessa massacre, all the things that happened were really, actually, they were war crimes, to be quite honest. And I think
true.
if I was Trump, I might be reminding Zelensky of that because he was involved. Other elites within the western parts of Ukraine were involved. Those were war crimes, and they could still be charged and prosecuted under those legislative procedures, perhaps at The Hague.
Like what they did with Milosevic from Bosnia.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Well, why not? Because I mean, a crime against humanity is a crime against humanity, regardless.
The European Union it doesn't gonna allow that. It's they're so stuck in that story that they're gonna lose face if they're going to do that. So they're not gonna allow that.
Well, I put my money on Trump any day. To be honest with you, he's the kind of guy that is pretty smart. He's got a lot of support. Indeed, he's got a lot of support, not just in America, obviously, but right around the world.
I think, of course, Zelensky had some horrible things, but he's been placed there. How can a comedian, and he had a company with it, so a media company with, how can a comedian end up with that? That's only by the fifth column. The elites put him in there. So
the whole thing was a CIA-backed coup initiated by Victoria Nuland, Senators John McCain and Graham Lindsay. I mean, they went and stirred the whole thing up.
In 2014, a couple of our local for the Dutch Democrats were there. The head of the Breton was there. A Belgium guy was there. But in Holland we've got this that's the thing for Russia. In 2014 the MH17 was crashed down, which caused a lot of lives. It was an airplane shot down in Ukrainian territory by a Russian bomb. And there were loads of Dutchies in there. There were loads of Australians in there. And MH17 is an Indonesian, I believe, Indonesian airliner. Loads of Indonesians in there. So and the Dutch propaganda by Margaret and with the Secret Service, our Dick Schoof, who's now our prime minister, were doing that. And at that moment, it was bodies came back, were driving down the highway. That's still in the Dutch mind. So when Mark Rutte became Secretary General of the NATO, I hear a lot of voices that let's have a payback, let's have Russia be
Yeah.
payback. So that's but how, if you look back, there was this Russian bomb who shot down the MH17 in 2014 on the ground of Ukraine, on the sovereignty ground in the land of Ukraine. How can sovereign? Can you imagine that China is coming over, or whatever, or neighboring country coming over and put a bomb in your territory to shut something?
Mm. Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, it's one of these things that there's going to be more and more comes out about all of that as the focus shifts and changes. But talking about shifting focus, I'd like to get your thoughts on what's happening in Germany right now, because there was European elites like Britain who was turning around and saying, well, we decided to cancel the elections in Romania. You did what? You cancelled the elections in Romania because you didn't like the guy that was probably going to take power? That's crazy. That's not democracy. And of course, Germany and the rise of the AfD has got them all a bit frothing at the mouth now as well. I mean, where do you think that's going to land? Do you have any insights or thoughts as to how that's going to fare when Germany sees the dust settling and looks at the elections? Do you think the AfD might rise?
I think it's a funny question that you asked me, because 10 months you asked the same thing about Trump, and I was saying Trump is going to be. I hope, and I hope Trump is going to be, and maybe and in second place RFK is going to be the president and now he's within the Trump regime. I think the ADF, the Alternative for Germany,
Yeah.
is a political group advocating for common sense, and you can agree with the how they are pointing out their problems in the country, but they're right. And if we want to have more and more steps on our side, the ADF is the only party. If we're looking at the competition of the ADF, it's it's a Christian party, the CDU, and Merz, I believe Merz is the party leader. He was sitting at the World Economic Forum last January, and then he's within his friends, and then you hear him talk. So I listened to him, to what he was saying for 4 hours, I guess, and he was saying, I want to work with the Greens, the Democrats, the lefties, the globalists. That's what he was advocating in the World Economic Forum. And if you look at now what he's saying in front of the state media, he's taking over the points of the ADF, Alternative for Germany. But when you favor the left of the Democrats over working with the ADF, but having the same talking points as the ADF to get votes in, you're screwing things over. But that's the competition. So, and with JD Vance talking about, we need to sit, we're going to sit with the Alternative for Germany, because we hope, we wish, we think that party is going to be winning. Stepped out the Merz from the CDU, because he's getting all the attentions within all the conversation within the Europe, within Germany. The ADF don't have a seat on the table on national television to debate stuff. Merz is doing that, so that's their favorite. And Merz is rather talking with because they need to form a coalition as well. It's not Democrats or Republican. Within most of the European countries, you need to work together, and you always have to compromise a little bit. But compromising with the Greens or compromising with people who can at least have the same thoughts about it, that's something else. I think the ADF should win, and I hope they're going to win. I wish all the best to them.
Well, I would agree with that. And, I've met members of the ADF, Christine Anderson, of course, very well known, hung out with her in Canada when I was there about 18 months ago. Great lady. But, Jasper, we've run out of time, as always happens with my fantastic guests, I have to say. But, I'm about to head off to Ireland. Getting back on my travels again. There's a lot going on over there. I'm going to go over. I've been asked to go over and meet with quite a number of people there in Ireland. But I hope it won't be too long before I'm back in the Netherlands, because I'd love to hang out with you. Maybe we can do some more mountain climbing. It's quite hard. pretty hard in the Netherlands, of course. It's so flat, but I'm sure we'll find a way, right?
Exactly.
But can I just say, Jasper, it's been fantastic to have you on the show with me again. Dank je wel.
Ja, heel graag gedaan. Thank you so much, Jim, for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, I can assure you. And to all the people out there, once again, you know, Jasper's not just a friend to the show, he's a personal friend as well. He's a great guy. You should follow his channels because he does call it. He's been very, very accurate in predicting the outcomes politically of a lot of fairly major situations, and I would encourage you to follow him. But as I always like to do, I always like to remind you that you guys, you're the real stars of this show. So until next time, this is Jim Ferguson, and we'll speak soon. Bye-bye for now.